Good to go. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, fellow board members. For the applicant, David Altman from the law office of Brown, Altman, and DeLeo, 538 Broad Hollow Road, Suite 301W, Melville, New York. I'd just like to thank the board for their indulgence tonight and putting up with the both of us this evening. So hopefully we won't keep you too long on this application. So good to see everybody and nice to see everybody healthy this evening. With me tonight, and I'm fairly certain the board is familiar with most of the BOLA team, is the project engineer, Chris Tartaglia, to my immediate right. Chris is the gentleman and his firm are the folks that prepared the civil plans that are in front of you this evening for consideration. Also with me here this evening is Mr. John Breslin, who testified on the last proceeding. He's our real estate appraiser and real estate expert, and John will be offering some testimony in terms of the impact or lack thereof on real property values for this project. I also have with me this evening Andrew Valari from Stonefield Engineering, and I'm sure you folks are familiar with Andrew. Andrew is our project traffic consultant, and he's a licensed engineer here in the state of New York. He'll be talking about the traffic impacts, if any, which I am sure, and based upon my discussions with Mr. Colgan, there is some interest in talking about. In addition, tonight we are fortunate to have with us Harry Singh, who is the principal of BOLA, and Mr. Singh is here to answer any questions that the board may have of BOLA itself as it relates to this application. Chris, did you want to hand up some plans? We got a little color handout which includes aerials, a colorized version of the site plan, and some 3D renderings of the site as proposed as built, which includes some really beautiful landscaping.
We're not sure if these are previously submitted, so we'll make them part of the record.
Sure, I appreciate that. Thank you. I think they may have been submitted digitally, but we'll submit them hard copy as well. So, as mentioned, and I'll go through some of the pedigree information. We'll get that out of the way. The property is 400 Suffolk Avenue in Brentwood, New York. It bears Suffolk County Tax Map number, District 500, Block 136, Section 3, and Lot 38.1. The current zoning designation on this property is B2 Business. As mentioned, the applicant is seeking a change of zone to B3. Interestingly, and I'm sure the board is familiar, this site does have a bit of a zoning history as it relates to gasoline service station uses, and I'll just briefly mention that the site was originally granted a C of O for a gasoline service station, although there is no C of O number of record going back to November 22nd of '54. I understand, and records are a little scant in this regard, that the gasoline service station lasted on this property till roughly circa 1980, and a C of C was issued for its demolition on 2/19 of '85. Interestingly enough, and shortly thereafter, there was a zone change from B1 to B3. So B3 is not unique to this property. In fact, there has been a prior finding by this board for a somewhat similar use, and by the town board as well, for that B1 to B3 zone change. That was zone change number TC 3583, granted on February 11th of '88. And at that time, it was for a wheel alignment, wheel balancing, automotive repair type use. Somewhat akin to the gasoline service station, albeit no convenience store or, in this case, fast food restaurant component. The lot information, I'll just give you a little bit of information regarding the current property as it's constituted, is fairly large. It's 72,107 square feet or 1.65 acres. For a gasoline service station, even in Suffolk County, that's a pretty tremendously sized site. And with frontage of approximately 264 feet on Suffolk Avenue and about 149 feet on Wicks Road at the southeast corner of Wicks and Suffolk Avenue. The board will note if on the site plan at the southwest corner, there is a small professional office. I believe it's a dental use that's abuts at the southwest corner, and then along the balance of the southern lot line, we have the Long Island Railroad right of way. The existing building itself, which is presently used for a family Dollar Tree store, not the prettiest building in the world, and in fact, it's a little tired looking, and that's why we're proposing to redevelop. The existing building is approximately 11,257 square feet. There are 80 on-site parking spaces. Interesting to note that prior to the Dollar Tree, there was actually a zone change granted, I believe in November of '96, um, where the property was zoned from B1, B3 to a pharmacy. And that pharmacy, believe it or not, does have a drive-through on the south side. So the use of a drive-through on this property is not unique, albeit of a different scale and character. That had a dual drive-through aisle and provided queuing for 4 cars. We recognize the difference in queuing for pharmacy as opposed to fast food, but I will submit that the queue that existed for that pharmacy type use, uh, as compared to what the applicant is proposing with the redevelopment of the site, the queuing for the redevelopment is vastly superior in terms of its layout and site efficacy. Character of the area immediately surrounding the site is a mixture of light industrial and retail, as well as B1 and B3 zoning. To the north, we have Suffolk Avenue, and as I said, B1 and B3 zoning. We have the Medical Express across the street, eastern wheel alignment, and the various components for that automotive repair use. And then we have the Walgreens at the northwest corner of Wicks and Suffolk Avenue. As you move further along on the north on Wicks, you have a mixture of retail, including some B3 zone property. And John Breslin will talk about that in a little more detail in terms of his presentation. To the immediate east, we have property that is split zoned, which we have the beer distributor and recycling center, as well as truck storage. South, of course, we have the Long Island Railroad right-of-way, and due south of that, heading south on Wicks, we have, in fact, a couple of other gasoline service stations, both of which, in fact, have convenience store components to them. To the west of the site, properties are generally zoned Business 1, including mixed-use retail, a Dollar Tree, and then a little bit further west, we have a Blink Fitness. As I mentioned, the applicant seeks the zone change for the proposed use as a gasoline service station with accessory convenience store and a fast food component, which includes the drive-through. The drive-through itself will have queuing for 15 cars, 2 lanes as well that merge into one at the ordering window, along with a bypass lane that circles around the south side of the property. The convenience store, if you'll note, or the building, you'll note on the renderings that have been provided to you, will have BK, Burger King, and Tim Hortons coffee uses. The menu board will be set. There is a pre-order board and a menu board on the queue. And as I mentioned, there will be capacity for 15 cars. Landscaping on the site as rezoned will more than double what is there today. This is
Mr. Altman, can I just ask you on the drive-through
sure.
aspect, what type of stores would that be servicing? The drive-through, do you already have what would be in there?
That will again be a Burger King type
And
use
just a
and Tim Hortons, but where I believe the intention is to limit it to the one use, which is planned to be Burger King. So
Okay.
you won't be able to order both uses to avoid confusion. Landscaping is pretty impressive, and if you look at your renderings and the colorized site plan, we are more than doubling what's there today. On-site landscaping is going to comprise almost 29% of the site, or 20,762 square feet. In fact, the front yard landscaping requirement under the town regulations requires at least 50% of the landscaping in the front yard. We're going to be providing 56.5%, or 9,597 square feet. The new building as proposed, which will be on the southern portion of the site, will be 4,114 square feet with a front overhang of 179 square feet, so in total roughly 4,293 square feet. The new building is roughly 38% of the size of the existing building, so it's substantially smaller in mass than what's there today. The applicant proposes 8 multi-product fuel dispensers, which will be parallel to Suffolk Avenue, which provides 16 fueling positions. There will be an overhead pump island canopy that measures 40 feet by 162 feet, or about 6,480 square feet in area. Um, I'll just note a couple of quick calculations I did before this evening's hearing. The building itself is roughly 6% of the lot area. The building and canopy is just shy of 15%, which equates to roughly what the existing building is today. The existing building is roughly 15% of the overall lot area as well. The applicant is providing 39 on-site parking spaces, including 2 handicapped. There is a small parking relaxation requested of 3 spaces. I believe 42 are required. There will be 3 underground storage tanks for petroleum product, 15,000 gallons apiece. There will be a masonry trash enclosure, which matches in terms of its aesthetics of the proposed building, approximately 10 by 20 by 6 feet in height on the east side of the building. As I mentioned, there will be a dual drive-through lane, which merges into the single lane with a 15-car queue capacity and 1 window. I've already gone through the landscaping. One of the important things to note here, and Andrew Valari will talk about this in some greater detail and as it relates to traffic, are the existing curb cuts. Right now we have 1 on Wicks Road and 1 on Suffolk Avenue. Those are both full movement curb cuts. The applicant has already engaged with and had extensive discussion with Suffolk County DPW, particularly as it relates to the access on both Wicks and Suffolk Avenue. On Wicks in particular, there will be a single curb cut, but it's going to be right in, right out. And the applicant, based upon its discussions with Suffolk DPW, is proposing a fairly significant non-mountable pork chop in the center of that to prevent people from making the quote improper turning movements. The site will be signed both internally and externally to advise people of the no left turns. It'll be right turn in, right turn out only. With respect to Suffolk Avenue, that too at the moment is currently full movement. The applicant is proposing right in and left in at the moment, subject of course to Suffolk County DPW approval, and right out only, again, reducing the number of turning movements in place. One of the other things to note, both from along with an aesthetic perspective, is that the applicant is proposing a monument sign as compared to the typical 15 to 20 foot gasoline service station sign that you often see on a fairly busy street corner such as this. That monument sign will be approximately 8 feet in height and 40 square feet in area, relatively modest given the overall size of the property. It'll blend in well with the on-site landscaping. In terms of similarly situated facilities that are in town, we've already, there are a couple existing. One in particular, which my office handled, Mr. Brown, in fact, had handled a couple of years ago, and that BOLA will be developing as well, is at 700 Motor Parkway. That site is similarly situated in size at roughly 70,867 square feet. That too will have a gas component as well as the convenience and fast food along with the drive-through, and that's already been approved in terms of the drive-through. Then there is the BP gas station at the northwest corner of Route 111 and the LIE North Service Road. That, I remember that going back probably to the early 90s. That was probably the first one I recall here on the island where you had gas with food and the drive-through. That site is roughly 2 acres in area, and there is in fact a drive-through there, and that site functions quite nicely. So in terms of the proposed use that the applicant is offering this evening, this is not novel to the town itself, as there are other similarly situated sites of 1.5 acres or more with these type of uses. The applicant is also, as part of its efforts to advise the community and let everybody know, engaged in community outreach, both with the Brentwood Chamber and Pronto of Long Island. We met with the Brentwood Chamber on September 20th, my apologies, of this year, and we obtained a letter of support from the Chamber dated 9/27/21, and I will submit copies into the record.
Thank you, Mr. Altman. We'll make those part of the record.
In addition, the applicant also met with Pronto of Long Island, which, as we know, is a charitable organization providing assistance to those in need throughout Long Island, including the Brentwood community. We obtained a letter of support from Pronto. That letter is dated September 29th of 21, and I will also submit that into the record as well.
Thank you. We'll make that part of the record as well.
Finally, this past Tuesday, on the 28th, BOLA and its representatives spoke with County Legislator Sam Gonzalez, who I think is here this evening, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe not. Said he was going to try and join us, who was very, very impressed and supportive of the application, and he too provided a letter of support. That letter is dated the 28th of this month, and I'll submit that into the record as well.
We'll make that part of the record as well.
My last comments, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Tartaglia for the final points on the site plan, relate to the development itself. This is a very significant development for BOLA. And as the board knows, and we've been before the board before on a number of occasions, BOLA is highly recognized and highly respected here on Long Island and in the New York metropolitan area for its gasoline service stations, convenience stores. There are more than 250 sites under BOLA's control and management at this point, or being serviced by BOLA, with more than 2,000 employees. The stations are the gold standard when it comes to gasoline service and convenience here on the island, and the landscaping, as the board knows, is first rate. This represents a more than $8 million investment in the Brentwood community, and is really based upon our interaction with both the Chamber, Pronto, and Legislator Gonzalez, something that's very much needed. We hope it serves as a catalyst for further redevelopment in the Brentwood community, and particularly in this area. And I hope the board recognizes that, because it's really viewed as important by all concerned.
Mr. Altman, I agree with you. BOLA's properties are outstanding throughout the town. They always are. They're kept up well. It's your presentation, but two areas to focus on. One is, and I'm very pleased by the write-in, write-outs only that you have in there, is the traffic concern in the area. So if you put a little time into the traffic concern, that'll alleviate some of the concerns of the board probably.
Yep.
And then I know Ms. Cruz might want to have a question or two regarding the drive-through component.
Sure. So I'm going to preempt Mr. Valari slightly in that we recognize, based again upon our not only conversations with Mr. Colgan, but also with Suffolk DPW, some of the concerns as it relates to this intersection. And we've actually been fairly proactive in offering additional traffic safety and mitigation measures. So I hope the board appreciates that as well. So
Thank you.
With that, I'll turn it over to Chris.
Thank you, David. For the record, my name is Chris Tartaglia, principal owner of the firm High Point Engineering. Mr. Altman does a great job of stealing every bit of thunder out of my bag and literally described everything that I was going to talk about. So I'm going to be very brief, which I guess is probably welcomed at this hour. A couple of things I just want to mention and just reiterate. So with that $8 million investment, this is clearly an outstanding and important development for BOLA as well as for the Brentwood community. But I just would like to kind of go back in time a little bit, because we've been working at this project actually for quite a while. In our initial due diligence phase for BOLA, we did meet with Mr. Colgan, and he may recall that the first plan that we put before him conceptually involved a 7,000 square foot convenience store with a 140-foot long car wash in addition to the drive-through, and 10 pump islands. Mr. Colgan, after he got up off the floor, told us this is too much. We've got to scale it down. And we then got rid of the car wash. We kept the store around 6,000 to 7,000 square feet, kept the 10 MPDs. Another review by Mr. Colgan was, I didn't fall on the floor, but I'm still barely breathing. You've got to reduce it further. So what David described as a 4,100 square foot building, down to 8 MPDs, no car wash, and still with the drive-through component, which we do believe is necessary in the industry at this point, represents BOLA's willingness to work with the town and the community to provide a development that they believe will work. So that's really my only point tonight. I'm certainly here for any technical questions that might come up.
Can I just, Mr. Frugier has a question while you're there.
Partly a site plan related question and partly just out of curiosity. with the increased popularity of electric vehicles, why doesn't gasoline service stations, especially now you're planning and you're building a new one, why wouldn't you have areas on your site plan that can accommodate charging stations? So maybe you don't put the charging stations in now, but while you're building it, you put the conduit underneath there so that you can run the lines, you put the basics, so you're not ripping up parking lots right after you built a new one. Within the next 5 years, there's going to be, I know this is gas, electric is anti-gas, but you're going to have to compete and you can still make money off of it.
You're absolutely right. I don't know if you were talking to Mr. Altman because you're stealing my thunder again. Indeed, there is technology out there that might actually involve a somewhat of an easy conversion of where the gasoline islands are to be electric. So as the gas demand could go down, we can change those out with EVs, with conduits. The infrastructure is not there yet. The technology is not there yet. And we're anticipating, Mr. Singh is very heavily involved in the oil industry, and he would certainly not be making this level of investment for something that we do foresee in the near horizon going away, which would be gas cells.
I don't think it's going away.
Yeah,
It's just
and
gonna
neither
be,
do
yeah.
we. But here's another great point, and again, this may change as technology evolves. So the best available technology with electrical vehicle fueling is if you don't have 20 to 30 minutes to, even on the fast chargers, if you're running on empty, you're really not going to get a significant enough charge. The typical time on site for most folks that go to a gas station, even if they go inside the convenience store, it's probably about 5 to 6 minutes in total on the property. So we're not sure that the gas stations are going to be the electrical vehicle fueling stations of the future. Restaurants, office buildings, hospitals, certainly those are longer stays. We don't really know what the future holds, so we are able to change and convert if need be, and if the technology comes that a 5-minute charge or a 6-minute charge will do it, we can certainly do that. But also we're waiting for the technology to evolve. David mentioned we have 42 parking stalls, by the way, we're providing 38 39, excuse me. Any one of those stalls could be converted with an electrical vehicle charging station, again, as needed. Thankfully, we've got 1.6 plus acres here to do things like that. So it's a great question, and hopefully that answers
Now,
it.
it would dovetail nicely with the restaurant use. Someone, you go get your big, the Whopper or whatever big Burger King sells, and you go and you sit in 15, 20 minutes, you get a quick charge.
So just a note, there's no seating proposed in this restaurant. This is going to be
Or
a.
you sit in
a
your car
takeout.
while it's charging.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
sure.
all right. Or you plug it in and you walk around the community and get a bite to eat there, It promotes the downtown. So,
Sounds great.
So with that, I'm going to ask Andrew Valari to come up and we'll get right to the traffic. Andrew?
Thank you. Good evening. For the record, my name is Andrew Valeri. I am a traffic engineer on behalf of Stonefield Engineering and Design on behalf of BOLA. In summation for the board tonight, I believe this application is a great opportunity to see a very important corner that may be presently blighted, be redeveloped with a very modern use. What's also connected to this application, and Mr. Altman alluded to it, he didn't steal my thunder yet, there are a significant amount of off-site improvements that BOLA is pro-offering. County hasn't asked for them. We're going to do them as a give back to the community. Just for some housekeeping, we did prepare a traffic impact study. It's dated September 27th, 2021. That was just handed in just a moment ago. We are currently working with the town's outside consultant, LK McLean Associates, to address all items. Another thing that was handed in just now was our most recent comment response letter to the most recent comments we've received. Quick background, everyone's very well familiar at this point in the presentation with where the site is located. We are at the southeast corner of the intersection of Suffolk Avenue and Wicks. Wicks is also referred to as Fifth Avenue, further north you go. Both of these roadways are Suffolk County DPW roadways. Wicks or Fifth is County Road 13 and Suffolk is County Route 100. This is not a technical term, but the intersection is busy. There's almost 50,000 vehicles in a day that go through this intersection. It's two very major county roads that intersect here at a traffic signal. What's currently provided on site is a bit of a dilapidated use, parking lots in disrepair, building probably could use a facelift. There are 2 existing access points that have no control whatsoever. Full movement, you can make left turns in and out of both of them. Wicks Road is in close proximity to where the at-grade rail crossing is, and also the intersection. Lefts presently occur at that location today. What's proposed is a complete overhaul of what's on the property with a very state-of-the-art BOLA development. Building would be about 4,100 square feet. You have a gas component that has 16 total vehicle fueling positions, 8 multi-product dispensers. Inside the BOLA building, we'll have a Tim Hortons use and a Burger King. That's very standard for the BOLA offering. Almost all BOLAs that you see being developed today have these uses already in them. What's special about this application is that we are proposing a drive-through on the back side of the building that's adjacent to the railroad. You could get the drive-through service from the backside of the building without ever leaving your car. So that's something that we've learned during the COVID era, is that contactless service is very important, and BOLA is looking to provide that amenity to the traveling public. Some table setting for the traffic impact study that we prepared. We did conduct traffic counts. They were earlier this year in January. What we did was we compared those traffic counts to some historic data that's been provided by both the DOT and Suffolk County. What we did was that we found that since the traffic counts were low in a COVID year, we increased them to get back to typical operating conditions pre-COVID, from data from 2018, 2019. That's all been thoroughly vetted by LK McLean. In doing a traffic impact study, we look at the existing condition and also the future with and without the project. The future without the project, things may change in the town. Population may change, employment may change. Also, other planned projects could be developed and built at that time. So we worked closely with planning staff to understand what projects we should be accounting for that'll add traffic to this intersection regardless of the BOLA application. As far as the trip generation of what's proposed, we referenced the industry standard Institute of Transportation Engineers trip generation manual, the 10th edition. It's the most recent version. And what's important to keep in mind with what's proposed is the types of uses that you have here. All of them are recognized as pass-by intensive uses. And what I mean by that is that most of the traffic that's going to be going to the site is pass-by traffic. And the board at this point is very familiar with the concept. Pass-by traffic is motorists will stop by at this site on their way to another destination. They're already on the road. They may be going from point A to point B, and this intersection is on their way. They may see that they need to get gas. They stop into the site, and they keep going the same way. They'd already be going through the intersection as is, and the industry standard ITE manual indicates that, on average, 76% of traffic that goes to facilities like this is comprised of pass-by traffic. So 3 out of every 4 vehicles that could go here in the future, they'd already be going through the intersection as it is. Maybe it's on their way to work, maybe it's on their way to school. They're already going through. So, what's left of that is the 1 out of every 4 vehicles is people that may be going out of their way to get a, jug of milk or something like that. It's not a whole lot of traffic. Now, the site is developed with a fairly large commercial building, about 11,000 square feet. We are requesting a change of zone, and we hope that this board issues a positive recommendation to the town board. In the current B2 zoning, some uses that you could develop on this property without seeking any approvals from this board would be a shopping center, which is permitted in B2, and also a daycare center. Now, what's interesting is that the building is about 11,000 square feet, and daycare centers typically look for about 10 or 11,000 square feet. So it's feasible that the existing building could be re-tenanted with one of these uses, and you're going to generate a high volume of traffic. Now, the difference being, there's no approval needed from this board. The type of traffic associated with daycares is more new traffic based, meaning that people are going to come to this area where they typically wouldn't. But with BOLA, most of the traffic that's going to be going here is already going through the intersection as it is. So if the intersection is busy right now, it could get more congested in the future based on the existing zoning. So with the proposed zoning, we think that it's a great benefit that you're going to draw from pass-by traffic. The increase at the intersection associated with BOLA is about a 1% change based on hourly volumes at the intersection. 1%. It's basically imperceptible to the naked eye that there's 1% more vehicles at that intersection when you're going through it. And why that is because of pass by. Everybody that's going to stop by at the BOLA is already going through the intersection as it is. So as part of the traffic impact study, we did a level of service analysis, and that's essentially a report card for how different movements at the intersection operate, grades it from A through F. When we compare the existing conditions, the future without the project and the future with the project, what we find is actually that there's no significant adverse impact as a result of this project. And why that is because of the 1% change. And really it comes back to why this is a pass-by natured use. Everybody that's going to go here is already on the roadway. I should mention that we are proposing a minor signal timing adjustment to the intersection. And what that does is actually improves the existing operation. There may be some inadequacies right now. We are changing the way the light functions, and it will improve the way the intersection operates regardless of the project. Suffolk County hadn't asked us to do that. We're offering it as an improvement that's really irrelevant from BOLA. We are doing some significant investments at the intersection. From a safety perspective, we are proposing to Suffolk County to install, at the applicant's expense, traffic signal backplates. And I'm not sure if the board's familiar, but they are basically a backboard around the traffic light, and they're reflective. What that does is actually it increases the visibility of that traffic light. And what that does is it helps motorists get an advantage of seeing a yellow light as opposed to a green or a red light. And what that does is it increases the safety at an intersection. Suffolk County does this across the board at all new traffic lights that they're looking at. They haven't asked us to do it. We're doing it on our own. We're making that investment at the intersection. Another thing that's probably most important in this location is at all four corners of the intersection, there will be pedestrian improvements, meaning that all four corners will have new pedestrian ramps. They will have new pedestrian signals, pedestrian push buttons, and new crosswalks, all pro-offered by BOLA, not required by the county. Last improvement that we're looking to do on the county roadway is actually restripe a little bit of Suffolk Avenue, and that'll actually help get site access at the driveway, which is going to be furthest to the east, furthest from the intersection. Regarding parking, we will be requesting a relaxation. It's very minor, where 42 parking stalls are required, and we are proposing 39. We have had the opportunity to work with BOLA over a number of years, and what we do is from time to time we stop by a new BOLA site that may be operating. We look at stores that are very similar to the ones that proposed tonight, 4,000 square feet, 16 vehicle fueling positions, and we look at how much parking does it actually need. What we find is that 30 some odd parking stalls is going to be plenty for this site, and I think why that is when people use the gas station and then they go into the convenience store to buy a cup of coffee, what happens from time to time is people leave their vehicle at the pump. They actually don't move into a parking space. So in effect, you actually have 16 additional vehicle fueling positions, which double as parking spaces at the pumps. 16 additional spaces really gets us above the town's requirement, but we are requesting that relaxation. Should mention that the site, and echo something that Mr. Altman said, the site is very large. It's probably one of the largest BOLA projects I've worked on, just in terms of square footage of the lot. What that affords us to do is really design this site very, very well. There are very generous drive aisles to get site access and circulation. From my professional opinion, the site's very well designed from a site circulation perspective, so I hope that the board sees it that way as well. So just in conclusion, we did a thorough traffic impact study looking at the level of service at the intersection. We found that there was not a significant adverse impact as a result of the project. We are proposing a number of improvements to the intersection from a safety perspective and a pedestrian, also car carrying perspective. Access has been designed in a very safe and efficient way. We have right in, right out access on Wicks, and we have the driveway furthest from the intersection as possible on Suffolk. We do have sufficient parking, albeit we are requesting a relaxation, and we really hope that the town sees this as an opportunity to see this corner develop something that really works in a symbiotic relationship with the types of traffic volumes you see going through the intersection. So I appreciate the time.
Thank you. While you're there, before you go anywhere, so this is a pet peeve of mine, and you're going to hopefully finally answer it for me. Traffic generation. I always noticed 98 cars go in, 96 come out, 121 go in, 120 go out. Not for this application. Do cars break down and stay there? Why always less cars leaving than going in? I never understood that.
So why that is
Okay.
it's based on 60 minutes. So let's just say the board decides to visit a BOLA site somewhere, probably tomorrow morning. What happens is that, Mr. Gonzalez may show up at 4:59, but the peak hour of how busy the whole site is ends at 5 o'clock. He enters at 4:59, he leaves at 5:01. He's only recorded in this table as an entering vehicle. So it's a bit of
It's hour specific, it's not the entire.
It's an hour specific.
Got it. Okay. I thought you guys were stealing cars or selling them off something. I never understood that one.
They vanish.
So I do have some traffic questions, and I don't know if you want to just do them. Yeah. So you're saying basically that 75% of the traffic is pass-by traffic, 25% is the additional 98 in the peak hours for an additional 25 cars instead of trying to make it a percentage of a car.
Correct.
There is a traffic problem in that intersection. What does that do to the traffic in that intersection? The increase of 25 cars per hour in the morning and, I don't know, 30 in the evening.
It's a very minimal change. So that 25% is based on site-generated traffic, and that 25% is a number, and that number in comparison to the intersection is only 1% of the roadway volumes.
So it's 1% of the roadway volume.
So it doesn't really do much.
The curb cut on Suffolk Avenue, has that been approved by the county?
Not yet, but we are working through that. We did go through a couple of rounds of review with them so far, so they're well aware of what's proposed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I understand Mark Soto from Pronto is here, and he's got to go. So if you don't mind, if we could take him at attorney on to offer a few comments.
As part of your presentation, it's up to you.
Not part of our presentation, but if you don't mind, we could take him out of turn so he can run.
Sure. Okay.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Mark Soto. I'm the Executive Director of Pronto of Long Island in Bayshore, 128 Pine Air Drive. So today I'm here, as reported earlier, we did submit a letter in support of this project, and we believe that a multi-million-dollar investment like this into the Brentwood community is needed and extremely welcome. It takes an anchor, as we've seen in other towns, Patchogue, Bayshore, and others, to spur others to invest in communities. And we believe that that investment will be the anchor to spur that on. This project could be the domino that catches the attention of other well-regarded companies to invest in our community, and we deserve nothing less. Our clients are generally from the Brentwood area, and we believe that we are speaking on their behalf. The concept of a one-stop shop, gas, convenience store, items, and a food drive-through was what I believe to be very appealing to many in our community who work hard, care for their families, and would appreciate the convenience of visiting one location for these offerings. As for concerns related to traffic, we encourage you to work with the applicant to ensure the best possible plan. We understand that BOLA is offering to make improvements to existing conditions at the intersection, and this is welcome. We need individuals and organizations like the BOLA Corporation and Mr. Singh that are willing to invest and go the extra yard for our community. Finally, we at Pronto of Long Island have a long and established record of assisting those in our community. It is our life's work, over 52 years, to improve the lives of those we serve. We welcome Mr. Singh and BOLA to our community, and we look forward to working together to make Brentwood beautiful and inviting to all. Thank you.
I want to thank Mr. Soto for the kind comments and for all his organization does for the Brentwood community and Long Island. Thank you very much. At this time, I'm going to ask John Breslin to step up. And John, the floor is yours.
Good evening again, John Breslin, 44 Elm Street, Huntington, the principal and president of Breslin Appraisal. My job with respect to this one's an easy one. In this particular case, the idea of rehabilitating this property to a new bowler facility with a tired commercial property would be something that's extremely beneficial, as you can see from the discussion of Mr. Soto. From a property value point of view, economic development point of view, it's a wonderful change to this corner to have that. The plan shows you that not only is it just a change from a business point of view, it will be dramatic aesthetic change with the landscaping and the redo of the facility. Having Bowler as the applicant is an added benefit, as the chairman recognized their stores, if you will, throughout Suffolk County and Long Island. I have a funny anecdote with respect to that. I've been involved now doing bowler cases probably for 10 years, done a lot of them, and I have an assistant by the name of Merlin who works in my office who happens to live very close by to this site. She's typed most of my reports. So when she saw this application and saw this report, she was very excited to see that this was going to come to her neighborhood. She said, finally, we get something like this in our community, a bowler. She said, what a wonderful thing for my community to have this here. So it's something that echoes the sentiments of like Mr. Soto, and I think it's something that will be a benefit to this community to have this type of facility there. It was mentioned several times, the overall size of this property is very, very large with respect to a gasoline service station, and that gives the ability to handle the multitude of uses that are proposed on the property very easily. The pattern of development it's consistent with. There are similar gas station uses both to the north and south of it. There's another fast food use just to the north. There's a large retail shopping center also to the north. But this use and the redevelopment of this tired corner overall will be a dramatic improvement for this community. So in conclusion, it's my opinion, by granting the relief of the rezoning to allow this use to happen will be overall a tremendous upgrade for the community in this area. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I think he put them in.
So, Mr. Chair, that sort of concludes our presentation. I think the board is fully familiar at this point with what the applicant is proposing, and it makes a lot of sense also given what we're asking for this evening, as well as the prior history of the site having at one point been rezoned actually to B3 before the pharmacy came in. So we ask that the board look favorably upon the application, or issue a positive recommendation to the town board on the zone change, and then grant the special use permit and parking relaxation that's requested this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
And of course, we're available for any other questions the board may have.
For the public here, I have a card from Mr. Singh. Do you want to speak as part of this?
No, Harry's good.
Thank you.
Unless you want to ask Harry some questions.
We might after the presentation from the town. Still want, yeah, exactly. We still want to know where those cars are, but we'll go to the public hearing. I don't have any cards. If anyone wants to speak, did anybody come in who wishes to be heard? Not seeing anyone. I'm going to turn to Mr. Colgan to give us a report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As stated by the applicant, this proposes a gas station with fast food restaurant. Currently, the site is improved with a retail store. The site plan as proposed shows the site exceeds landscaping requirements and a parking relaxation, I believe, of just one stall. The applicant proposes 2 additional fueling stations than is currently allowed by code. Traffic study was submitted and reviewed by the town's traffic consultant. He noted that the signalized intersection of Suffolk Avenue and Wicks Road experiences considerable congestion, which is exacerbated by the impact of the Long Island Railroad crossing. The development of the site as proposed will introduce a significant number of new turning movements into and out of the site driveways at this congested location. In addition, limited queuing storage is available for westbound vehicles on County Route 13 to make a left into the site, which will result in delays for vehicles attempting to exit westbound onto County Route 13 from the subject site. This is one of the busier intersections in the town of Islip, so the board will have to weigh the traffic impacts with the benefits that the applicant is proposing to this location. So based on that, the staff would recommend that the board reserve decision tonight to go over any additional site improvements and verify the traffic improvements that the county might require.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Ms. Cruz.
Hi, good evening. I just have a few questions for the traffic first. Was the traffic study done to show how that the Long Island Railroad affects the traffic? Because you're going to be having people coming in and out on that. So was traffic looked at with the Long Island Railroad?
Yes, so when we did our traffic counts, we paid very close attention to any external occurrences that may impact traffic through the area. And just to explain what happens at that rail crossing, it is an at-grade rail crossing, meaning that there's just a gate arm that goes down and traffic stops. When there is a train oncoming, the gates go down, and what happens is that traffic heading north, basically to cross the tracks, it can't go through anymore. And also traffic heading south, basically to clear from our side of the site, our side of the intersection down, that also can't move. And what happens is all of the other approaches of the intersection, they get a red light, and they should, because you want vehicles to be stopped when the train is crossing. And essentially what happens is nobody moves. And that may be frustrating when you have to get somewhere and maybe you're late, but it's actually a very safe thing that happens. And what happens along our site frontage, basically on Wicks, as you're heading northbound, since the gates are down, there's no traffic that is in front of the site. And basically every time the traffic signal flips into the railroad actuation mode, there's no vehicles that ever stop in front of Wicks heading northbound. They can't physically get there because the gates are down and nobody could cross. So thinking about what's proposed here, on Wicks, we have a right in and a right out driveway. Nobody is going to be able to make a right turn into the site when the gates are down because no one can get there. And what could happen, and is actually a good thing, is that if you are looking to exit the site on Wicks, you can very easily make a right turn out and head northbound. No, that's going to be channelized. There's going to be a curve that basically forces you to go to the right. It's impossible to make a left. So if anything, it's actually a benefit that this application is on this corner. If it was on the other side of Wicks, it would be a completely different story. The entire site frontage would be blocked and you couldn't get in or out, not necessarily a safe occurrence. But since we're on the east side of the street, there's nobody in front of our site and there's no cars moving, and that's actually a good thing. There is. There's a light on either side. Pioneer Drive, there's a traffic light, and then there's the tracks with the gates, and then there's Suffolk has a light. They both are controlled by lights. It works very well.
My other question is not really about traffic, but it's more about the drive-through. While I live in Brentwood, my biggest concern is the Burger King. It's one, the Bola, there's one by my mother-in-law. You guys put a new one in on 111. We love it. We walk over when we're at my mother-in-law's, we stop, and we really do. One of my main concerns is that usually in neighborhoods like ours, it's always fast food that gets brought in. Oh, let's, they love this. That's my only concern. And my only really comment is there any other use other than a Burger King, other than a fast food, or a drive-through, where we could go and stop in other than just constant bombarded with fast food? I brought you out, didn't I?
I thought I was walk away without making any statements. Yes, we do have a good option of Tim Horn, which is a bakery and a cafe. We do have in our stores a total full line of fresh salads and yogurts and all different type Our boards had cold cuts that we prepare in our local kitchens, that we
The
deliver.
111 has that, correct?
Yes, we deliver that daily.
Yeah.
So we do have very good size of healthy options. And
Right.
we might, most likely, we probably wouldn't get a Burger King because the one nearby the area that might be in conflict of approval. So most likely you will end up with the Tim Horn Cafe and Bake Shop.
Because my hesitation is the fast food, because first of all that extra traffic, the McDonald's on, I think it's, can't think of the street right by, Spur Drive on the corner. But that's over by, again, by the
That's by
Southern
Southern
State.
State Parkway,
So that makes,
yeah.
that I can understand.
Right.
But, another fast food restaurant in a neighborhood where we're bombarded with
Right.
fast food and nothing healthy, I would like to see something other than
Right.
fast
McDonald's
food.
you're talking about is on Southern State Parkway and
Yes.
Spur Drive.
Yes.
So this is
And
far,
there,
this
they
is
have
far
a
distance.
two-lane, yes.
Yes, correct. But our offering is not standalone restaurant drive-through. The purpose of our drive-through is preventing customer leaving us going elsewhere. Because during the COVID-19, we suffered large amount percentage of sale drop in our stores because people didn't want to come and
They bring
interface with people.
Starbucks. We love Starbucks. The same
I wish
as,
they given me franchise, I'll be the first one building one. But we have Tim Horn is a Canadian brand. I don't know if you ever heard the name. Tim Horn is in a cafe and bakery goods. Everything is baked on sites, from bagels and croissants to donuts and fresh coffee, beverages. And then we, of course, have our own Gourmet Dailies provides the fresh salads and yogurts and sandwiches and everything else. We do provide very large scale of healthier choices in our store versus 7-Elevens. We do focus on myself, and we was the first one actually, but back a few years ago that introduced an organic coffee without a penny more to our customers. Unfortunately, believe it or not, and it's all about what consumer wants, and you said something interestingly. Everybody throw fast food franchise because there's no demand for it. We lost 30% of sales in our store by putting organic coffee that I paid $5 a pound more money than I was paying before, trying to give people a healthier choice. Unfortunately, sometimes we got to go along with the consumer, what consumer wants. It's not just what we want. And I wish there was more customer buying healthier choices. People provide more healthier choices. But we still make sure that when we make enough planograms available, that we do have the healthy choices in the store. But we will look at your request and we'll definitely, if we can not do Burger King and do a Tim Horn better choice, we will definitely do that.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Ruggiero, Mr. Brown.
There we go. Mr. Altman, first I'd like to say the size of the site, with what you're putting in here, I think is fantastic.
Thank you, sir.
If you were putting a Starbucks, I probably wouldn't be going for it with the queuing, with the drive-through, but on
I
this
think if we
site
were
here.
putting a Starbucks,
I would
Mr. Culligan may
well,
have a few more questions on traffic.
Yeah, exactly. But as far as the queuing and everything with this site, I would compare it to the McDonald's on Sunrise Highway right in Oakdale, and you have a larger queue. And that's one of the busiest McDonald's on Long Island. So the queue is very sufficient. The size of the building is sufficient. There's some traffic concerns, some things that we spoke about tonight that we want LK McLean to look at, and some of the other traffic issues. But the right turn in, the right turn out, I think you got everything right this time around with this. And I just wanted to see what LK McLean has to say.
No, we appreciate that.
Before we finalize everything.
Sure. No, we appreciate that, Mr. Brown. Thank you.
Just to echo what Mr. Brown said, I think this project was done well. The traffic that was of concern I had, I think you've addressed a lot of the right in, the right out. Obviously, we still need to see the approval in terms of what Suffolk's going to say about Suffolk Avenue, which will dictate a lot to us in terms of the approval. Hopefully, that's far enough along that you can get back before us quickly on that.
We will do our best to follow up with them as quickly as we can.
Your application, so the quicker you get it.
Yep, no, we got it.
Just a question for you. The traffic light onto Suffolk Avenue. So if you're heading south on Wicks, what would be the increase in the amount of people waiting to make the left turn? Is this signalized intersection? Is there a left turning arrow there? Will that,
Just so I understand, on
Heading-
Wicks, heading south, you want to make a left and then go.
the only way to
towards
get into your Shoppington would make a left onto Suffolk, right?
Yep, so you want to know what the increase in delay is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that movement in the evening doesn't operate well right now. And what we are proposing to do is actually change the way the light operates.
Those are one of the improvements you were
That's
talking
one
about.
of the improvements. We're fixing that.
Good.
So, yes, there's going to be a small amount of traffic that's added to that. We're actually counteracting it by getting back to just about the same as it would be in the future without the project.
Perfect. And then my other just last question on traffic is cars turning out onto Wicks making the right. There's really no way to head south or no way to head west in terms of them jumping all the way over to try and get to the left turn lane. See any problem with that?
So to head west, no, I think that would be challenging. They'd have to find another way just to get directly onto to Suffolk. There is residential that's in that direction. And at the end of the street, there's a bunch of industrial. So that's going to be a challenging movement. I don't think that they'd be able to do it. They'd have to go to the next light to the north, which has that 7-Eleven with gas, and then head west from there. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. And then last thing, just a suggestion to look at with planning staff when you go back and look at a couple other things is I agree with you that you probably have more than enough parking spaces, even though it's technically relaxation. The possibility, if you don't need them all, to land bank a couple of them.
Got it.
So
We
just
do.
some,
Yeah, we have 6 land bank right now, so we
Okay.
have like 33 in effect.
perfect. That's it. Any further questions from the board? Would the applicant like to add anything further?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. We appreciate everybody's time, and it's great to see everybody.
Great.
Oh, Harry, sorry.
I thought he said no when I asked about the card.
No, just want to make one commitment that I usually stand up in most of the planning board hearing that I go myself. When we say we want to work with the local communities, we really mean it. We're not looking to say, make statement, not do things, but we promise in front of the board. We come through 100%, but we make statement in front of the board. So you can count on it, but I will be proposing today, it could only be better, not worse. So that's the final statement. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Anyone? Anyone? Reserve? Motion by Ms. Motion by Ms. Cruz to close the public hearing and reserve decision. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Brown. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? We're reserved. Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Matamore, do you have a motion? It's a motion by Mr. Matamore to close the hearing. Second by Mr. Brown. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? We're closed. Thank you.